The White House has officially admitted defeat in this whole Signal-gate fiasco, and it looks like they've chosen their fall guy, Michael Waltz. Of course, it was his group chat, and he was the person who added Jeffrey Goldberg, but it didn't help his case that he kept lying about it. And now the White House and Trump are officially saying that no, Mike Waltz is in fact responsible.
We have never denied that this was a mistake, and the National Security Advisor took responsibility for that, and we have said we are making changes. We are looking into the matter to ensure it can never happen again. But of course, the president has put together a team. Look at the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who was voted in by the United States Senate, putting our warfighters first, making the world a safer place for the American people and for all people, and we're going to stay focused on that.
Putting aside that Pete Hegseth couldn't keep a liquor cabinet secure, Michael Waltz was not taking responsibility for this leak. He was on Fox News making it seem like Jeff Goldberg hoodwinked him and got on the group chat by some feat of up-close sleight of hand magic.
Somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now, whether he did it deliberately or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
So your staffer did not put his contact information.
No,
but how did it end up in your phone?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay, but that's a pretty big problem.
That is what we've got the best technical minds, right?
That's disturbing.
And that's where, I mean, I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
But you've never talked to him before, so how's the number on your phone? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then then somehow it gets
someone
sucked
sent
in,
you that
it gets
contact.
sucked in.
Was there someone else supposed to be on the chat that wasn't on the chat that you thought was
so
on the
the person that I thought was on there was never on there.
And of course somebody is going to have to go down for this, and it seems like the conservatives have pegged Michael Waltz, as sleep paralysis demon turned human being Charlie Kirk is starting to suspect that maybe Michael Waltz is part of the deep state.
How Jeffrey Goldberg got added is likely because Mike Waltz wanted to add the U.S. Trade Representative, Jamison Greer, and had the same initials. Now, allow me to editorialize for a second. I know Mike Waltz. We disagree on a lot of foreign policy stuff. There's a serious question as to why Mike Waltz has Jeffrey Goldberg as a saved Signal contact. It's a very serious question. He's the editor-in-chief of a Trump-hating magazine. You are a national security advisor. You've obviously been dialoguing or talking to him previously. Is Michael Waltz leaking to Jeffrey Goldberg? I certainly hope not. We know Jeffrey Goldberg has pushed some of the greatest anti-Trump BS in years past. This is not a friendly or a remotely friendly reporter.
First, hats off to Jeffrey Goldberg for being the #1 Trump-hating reporter. I appreciate the hard work you're doing there. But I think Occam's razor is coming into effect here, and the simplest explanation is that Michael Waltz is a fucking idiot. Now, of course, Jeffrey Goldberg, for his part, does sort of imply that there is a relationship between him and Mike Waltz.
One of the other interesting elements of this is the National Security Advisor is now saying he never knew you, wouldn't have been able to pick you out of a police lineup. Had you ever met Mike Waltz before?
I'm not going to comment on my relationship with Mike Waltz. I'm just not going to comment on it.
Someone watching might find that suspicious, but as a reporter, you're potentially not commenting on someone who may or may not have been.
I'm just not going to comment on my relationship with Mike Waltz.
You've seen photos, though, that surfaced today of you two at an event several years ago, standing next to each other, which suggests you've met before.
I mean, the photos are, I mean, if your eyeballs see us together, then I guess your eyeballs are seeing us together.
It definitely seems like Goldberg is leaving the door open on the idea that he's in communication with Mike Waltz on a regular basis. And Trump was reportedly livid that Waltz could, quote, be so stupid.
There was no classified information, as I understand it. They used a app, if you want to call it an app, that a lot of people use, a lot of people in government use, a lot of people in the media use. And I think I'll ask Mike. Mike is here. Do you want to respond to that, please?
Yes, Mr. President. You asked about lessons. I think there's a lot of journalists in this city who have made big names for themselves, making up lies about this president, whether it's the Russia hoax or making up lies about Gold Star families. And this one in particular, I've never met, don't know, never communicated with, and we are and we are looking into and reviewing how the heck he got into this room.
But despite all that waffling, it looks like the buck finally had to stop somewhere. Mike Waltz, I guess he said he claimed responsibility, Trump said in the Oval Office. It was Mike, I guess. I don't know. I'd always thought it was Mike. Jesus, how's that for mental acuity? I'd rather have an auto pen than whatever the hell this is. But of course, assigning blame is only step one in this whole process. Somebody has to actually face consequences when it comes to breaking the law, as Senator Chris Murphy points out in this clip.
Well, I mean, listen, I was glad to hear one of my Republican colleagues in the Senate, the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, say there's got to be an independent investigation. That's good. But this is criminal behavior, right? They likely violated multiple laws, the Espionage Act, the Presidential Records Act. And so there has to be criminal investigations as well here. I mean, if the criminal code doesn't apply to powerful people, it only applies to people without power, then we don't have rule of law in this country. And so you're seeing the unfolding scandals of this administration start to overlap, right? When the Department of Justice has been turned into, as it has been, just a political arm of the White House, this is what happens. People in power believe that they can get away with crimes and telegraph to the American people that they're going to continue doing it while the law continues to apply to everybody else.
Consequences and legal fallout are surely to come, as several lawsuits have already been filed, including this lawsuit over Signalgate that was just assigned to one of Trump's least favorite judges. Judge James Boasberg will preside over a case alleging that Trump administration officials violated federal record-keeping laws when they used Signal to discuss military plans. Boasberg was the judge that told Trump to turn around that plane headed for El Salvador. He's the judge that Fox News is trying to get deposed, so I'm sure he's not going to take too kindly to Trump officials. And now this story has the Republicans so spooked they're no longer making any sense. Here's Navarro on CNN having some sort of time dilation crisis around this.
I do want to ask you, do you have Signal on your phone?
I'm not going. You guys beat that story to death. I'm just watching. I remember during the campaign.
Would you ever use Signal for government business?
I don't use Signal. Look. You beat that story to death on the campaign trail. I would ask you to rethink
this story
that,
wasn't
the
on the
American people don't care about that. Well, they do care about this story, and I'm glad you had me on today. I'm just delighted to be on. But no, I'm not going there. It's not my lane. Not my job, and I'm here to talk about making jobs for the American people, and that's what President Trump wants to do.
All right, sir. Well, I very much appreciate your time.
I don't expect that this is going to be the last major blunder we see out of the Trump administration. If these first couple months are any indication, we might not make it to the midterms. I'm Tony Hinderman with Really American, and I'll catch you next time.